Welcome to another electrifying episode of the Commentary Booth, live via satellite, where we peel back the curtain on your favourite wrestlers and their cinematic inspirations. I'm your host, Jamie Apps, and today we're pumping up the power with a phenomenal guest who currently finds herself with a lot of time on her hands to watch some movies and TV as she rehabs after neck surgery. Joining us live via satellite, none other than the host of That's Cooked, Steph De Lander.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me, Jamie.
Yeah, and like we said, the neck, how's it all coming along?
Good, feels good. Just a little cut there. I've got some bandages on it. No, I feel great. I mean, it's been I think just on 2 weeks since surgery now, and obviously, I've got a long ways to go as far as recovery is concerned. But for 2 weeks post neck surgery, I'm feeling pretty good.
That's awesome. It always
Yeah,
trips me out that they go in this side.
wild, right? Yeah, it's like what the fuck are you guys even doing? Yeah.
Glad it went well though. A little bit concerning when you've sort of first put that statement out there, but I'm glad it's all coming along nicely.
Yeah, I didn't want to scare everyone. But when I told TNA, they were kind of like, well, we want to give you the opportunity to like announce it on your own terms if you want to. And I was like, yeah, sweet, whatever. So it was nice to kind of just like me be the one say it rather than it gets leaked online or whatever else. But yeah, when you hear neck surgery, you think like worst case scenario. And obviously, neck injuries can be very, very dangerous. But luckily, mine's kind of like a preventative, like, look, you've got, this niggling neck issue. Let's like let's get it taken care of while we can, while you can recover, come back from it, be 100%, all that rather than waiting until it gets worse. So I'm feeling good. I'm happy I did it on the road to recovery.
Get in before it gets to be a really serious problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Thanks for joining me on the show today. We're going to chat about your favorite movies and TV shows and their influence on your wrestling career. Before we dive into that, how big a part of your life are movies and TV?
Honestly, like I feel like I'm the wrong guest for this kind of show because I'm not a huge movie buff like a lot of people are. Um, so like to a degree, I would say I get a little bit of inspiration from movies and TV. I would say I get more inspo from like music probably, but that honestly just comes down to the fact that like I have inattentive ADHD, so I can't sit for a long time. So oftentimes I'll sit down, attempt to watch a movie, and kind of struggle to get through it. But in saying that, I have, I've still seen some movies, and I definitely have my favorites, like everyone else does. So yeah, it's not the biggest thing in my life, but I've seen some stuff, I guess.
And we've seen on TNA recently, you've sort of taken a bit of inspiration from some horror type movies as well. So in your attire and stuff, so it's pretty cool to see stuff like that coming through.
Yeah, I being in the storyline with PCO, I was like, what's a fun way that, even if I'm in a non-wrestling role, if I'm just managing or doing storyline stuff, what's a way that I can still stand out, and also while I'm at a company where I have more creative control. um I want to do some fun shit, and I want to when I don't have to clear a million different things all the time, as strictly as you do in WWE. I was like, fuck it, why not? Like, it's nice to be able to have a bit more ownership over what you do and the way that you present yourself. So yeah, that's what I'm taking full advantage of while I'm at TNA.
Yep, yeah, put like your personality into the character as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
And almost broke an ankle on one of those entrances, I hear.
Oh my god, on two of them. On one of them, it was a taped show. Actually, no, on both of them, it was a taped show, so they were able to edit it out twice. But yeah, I keep almost breaking my ankle. And one of my ankles, honestly, I think I've like slightly done something to one of my Achilles tendons because it's hurt last couple of months, and I think that I've like legit almost rolled one of my ankles. And I think it's from the boots during my entrance. So they need to stop making such steep ramps. I keep
Yeah,
almost eating shit. But
yeah, it's the Rams' fault. It's not the big giant platform boots.
yeah, well, look, when you add the ramps and the platform boots, it's always on the ramp. But once I get past the ramp, I'm fine. But yeah, it is what it is. What are you gonna do?
So the big question for today: what did you choose as your favorite movie or TV show, or the movie or TV show that has had the biggest influence on you?
Today I chose The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Brilliant. When did you sort of first discover that movie, and how did you discover that movie?
So I first watched it last year during Halloween, because Paige, who is Bronson Reed's wife, kept telling me like, Steph, you need to watch Nightmare Before Christmas. You're gonna love it. Da 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 da. And I don't know what it is, but the more someone tells me to do something, the more I don't want to do it. So I'm like, I was like, whatever, yeah, whatever, da, 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 and I just never did. And then all of a sudden one day I was like, fuck it, I'll watch this movie that she keeps telling me I need to watch. And then I don't know what it was about the movie that just like I really took to, but the first time I watched it, I was like, whoa, this is crazy. How have I never seen this before? Pretty much from there on, I was just like, yeah, I just thought it was awesome.
Yeah, brilliant. I'd never watched it either until this week when we planned this episode, and my girlfriend made me watch it. She was like, "You need to watch the movie before the episode." I was like, "Okay, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
Fine."
What did you think?
I actually enjoyed it. I didn't expect that I would, because it's like musicals I'm normally fine with, but not always. And then Tim Burton can be very hit or miss with me. Like sometimes I love his stuff, and then other movies I'm like, that no, that did not click at all. But this one did, and I think it's the like style of it, the animation claymation style. I wish he did more movies like that. I'd like I like those movies more than I like his live action ones.
Right. Yeah, I didn't think I was going to like it at all either because I don't really like musicals. Like I don't really care for musicals. I don't really care for children's movies. You know, I love Christmas and love Halloween, but I was like, what am I going to like about this? This just looks like a kids movie. But I think you're right. I think it's like the combination of like the stop motion and then also like the darker, like more gothic stylizing of it. I don't know. It's like it's a children's movie, but you're like, but is it? You know what I mean? Like it's
Mm, yeah, it's quite dark for a kids movie.
yeah, it's not like a goofy movie that you're like, whatever, I guess we're watching like Minions or some shit. It's like it feels like it's a bit edgier. So yeah, I don't know. I just think and I mean, like it's catchy, like the songs are catchy, and I think it's just entertaining, it's fun, it's easy. As intricate as it is, it's also easy to follow, and it's short. Like I think it's like only like an hour and a half, which for me is such a win. Like if someone tries to make me watch a movie and it's 3 hours, I'm like, what is going on? Why does this movie need to be 3 hours? Yeah, I think there's a lot, like it's an easily digestible movie for a first time viewer, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so like Oppenheimer would be a big no go for you.
Oh, bro, no, there's no way. I remember I tried to go. I went to the movies and I saw Inception at the movies, and I was like, after 20 minutes, I was sitting there going, I think I want to go home. I can't do this. Like I can't do this. I don't even. I honestly don't think I even finished it. I either left or I was like playing games on my phone the whole time because movies like that, it's like I can't. Like poor Mance, when we're sitting down watching a movie together, he has to pause it like every 10 minutes, and I have to be like, okay, so who's that person? What are they doing? How's this all working? How did we get here? And he's like, did you not just watch the whole? I'm like, I did, but like none of it made any sense. So I'm like a real child when it comes to watching and understanding movies.
You're making me question my mum now. Maybe my mum has ADHD.
She might, because a lot more people have it than you think.
Because yeah, we watch a movie and like 10 minutes in, she's like, "So what's that?" I was like, "I've watched the same amount of movie as you have. What's going on here?"
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like an attention span thing or whatever else, but yeah, we'll be watching the same thing for the first time and he'll have a total understanding of what's going on. And I'm sitting there going like, I don't get it.
And you mentioned sort of being captivated by the gothic style and the sort of darker tone. Like it is a very unique movie. Like it's about your typical like movie monsters kidnapping Santa Claus. Like that is a very unique story that I didn't expect from this movie.
Yeah, it's like that's what I was kind of saying of like it is a kids movie, but also is it like it's definitely not a cut and dry feel good Christmas movie or Halloween movie. It's like it is a bit more layered. But I do think it's like quite quirky in a sense of you've got, you know, for instance, like Jack, he is the main character. He's a clay skeleton, but somehow they've managed to attach so many different emotions to him. And as the viewer, you get invested and you feel empathy for this stick figure man. And you know what I mean? It's like crazy that the way that they're able to kind of like make the audience feel and add so many like human emotions to these characters made out of clay. It's crazy. I've looked into a little bit like how long it took them to make it and how they did it, and there's like a behind the scenes documentary, and I watched that, and it's very interesting. Like it took them a long time. It was super expensive, and also what I find crazy is like I think it was initially released in 1991 and it didn't do anywhere near as well as they were expecting, and it kind of flopped. But then, like 10 years later or whenever it was, Disney, like, basically looked at their catalog and were like, wait, we can revamp this movie and, like, repackage it and present it. And, like, it's a good movie. I reckon it'll do well. And then they just marketed the fuck out of it. And then that's how it got super popular. So, like, it had already been out for a long period of time as like a sleeper film that no one really paid any attention to, and it wasn't until Disney like branded it correctly that then it totally blew up and became like one of the most iconic Halloween movies. And that in itself, to me, if you want to try and tie it to wrestling, that to me shows that like sometimes it doesn't even matter what the product is. If you know how to sell it correctly, people can buy into anything.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's all about that branding. Like if you can actually, and if you believe in something, if you're gonna push something and say, "Hey, we believe in this. This is why you should love it," people will love it.
100%. And I think like when you look at certain talent in companies, it's if WWE or AEW or TNA or whoever else decides that we want to pull the trigger on this person and we want to present them as a superstar, they'll make that happen. If they decide that they don't want to, they won't, and then that won't happen. So it's interesting when you have a machine that big behind you, you know, it's kind of like that's where it can be super powerful, and that's where you see crazy stuff like that happen with just like the, you know, obviously whoever was the head of marketing at that time just absolutely nailed it, because they just started pumping out, you know, every single piece of merchandise you could possibly make with Jack Skellington on it. And now it's 2024 and it's still, that stuff is still in the shops. They're still making new merch about Nightmare Before Christmas. So I think that side of it is almost just as cool as the film itself.
And that's the cool thing with this movie too. Like they can sell, like most movies, you either sell Halloween merch or Christmas merch. This one, they have that whole like 3 month period where they can just be like, here's Nightmare Before Christmas merch.
It's crazy. Like I was looking around my house because it's the 1st of November here today. And I was like, all right, when Mans gets home from Hawaii, we've got to switch the house over from Halloween to Christmas. And then I like saw, I've got this like artwork on the wall, and it's Jack Skellington, but it's like Christmas comes to Halloween Town, and it's like Santa Jack. And then I was like, oh my God, that's perfect. That stays, because now that's just gonna stay there forever because that's Halloween and Christmas. So you're right. It's like they are in a unique spot where they can, you know, have their cake and eat it too with both holidays. So I think it's genius.
And then, so as we look to wrestling as well, how have you taken inspiration from the movie for the Steph De Lander character?
Well, I mean, I would say the most like recent obvious thing would be when I literally like did a Jack Skellington cosplay on TNA a couple of months ago. So that's kind of like the most obvious. Like I literally dressed up as him, and it just looked so cool. And like the hair was, I had a vision for the hair, and I, you know, got them to do it a certain way. And I did my own makeup. I bought the boots. I bought the outfit was like all different bits from different costumes and like random stuff that I had bought and like made it together. Like it wasn't just one costume that I bought, to kind of like make it my iteration of it. And that kind of got over really big. That got like a really big reaction, that whole look. And I also have Sally gear made that I was going to wear, but then obviously didn't wrestle again because I am injured. So I do have a Sally set of gear that I might whip out at some point, which is exciting. But then as far as like using like inspiration for my look, I mean, I would just say in general, like it's more of an alternate movie, and my look is very alternate, you know, by nature. So I think there's a big crossover between like a lot of my wrestling fans are also the horror fans or Halloween fans, or, you know, that alternate gothic kind of, you know, at wrestling shows, a lot of any girl that I see at a show that has like green hair or piercings or tattoos or whatever else, I'm like, I know they're going to be a fan of me. And they're the ones that come up to me at the merch table and stuff. So yeah, there's kind of this like special kinship between me and like the gothic alternative fan base, which I love because kind of that's what I'm like at heart too. Certainly what I look like. So yeah, that's like a parallel that I see all the time as well.
And yeah, like you mentioned, sort of having that creative freedom and just having that someone believing in you. Like I think we've seen that recently, like with yourself when you went over to TNA, they believed in you. They've pushed you as like a major star. We've seen Delta come into NXT. She's getting pushed as a major star. Hopefully, we see that with Indy in the next month or two.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's you as the talent, you can work really hard, but sometimes if you are not in a position to succeed, you will not succeed, you know? And I was in that position with NXT. I think Indy has felt that way in certain scenarios, you know, when she's not being featured on television or whatever else. Almost every wrestler can relate to a period in their career where they felt like that. It can be a helpless feeling not having any sort of control on that front. But on the surface, on the other side, when you look at it, so much can change in such a short period of time if a company does believe in you, if a person does believe in you. And as you said, like looking at the way that Delta's being presented and Stephanie Vaquer and Julia, like, okay, they're pulling the plug on them. They are, you know, putting the machine behind them. They are packaging them to be the next kind of like four horsewomen of NXT. That's great for them. Was it like that for me when I was there? No. Could that have been me in that position and I would have succeeded? Possibly. There's a lot of other people that you could have put in that position that possibly could have succeeded. And that's not to take away from the talent themselves. That's just to say, like, when you do have someone behind you or a machine behind you, you can do really well. Now I'm in TNA, I'm in a totally different situation. For me personally in my career, I feel like this is the first time where I've had people really kind of vouching for me and seeing the value in me and seeing the talent in me. And when you work somewhere where you don't feel like that all the time, it can mess with your head and it can shake your confidence a little bit. So now I just feel like personally I'm in a really good groove where I'm working at a place that I feel appreciated, I feel valued, I feel like my ideas are heard. You know, I oftentimes will have creative conversations with Tommy Dreamer on the phone and we're spitballing ideas. Like that's a relationship that I've never had with any writers or bookers or anyone like that before. So you can pitch, but if it's always falling on deaf ears, it's like how much can you spin that wheel? So TNA is great for that. And yeah, if Indy wanted to do that, I'm sure there would be a place for her there. But I guess we'll see over the next few months what kind of happens.
Wrestling fans, are you ready for the ultimate showdown? Pro Wrestling League and Renegades of Wrestling are teaming up to bring you the Australian Wrestling Super Show. It's all happening Friday, February 14th at the iconic Eaton's Hill Hotel in Brisbane. Kick off your AEW Grand Slam weekend with a night of epic action. Expect the unexpected, because with an open door policy, anything can happen. Who will show up? Who will throw down? Gold tickets are already sold out. Silver seats, they're over 50% gone. You don't want to miss this. Grab your tickets now at Linktree/Pro Wrestling League and start your weekend with a bang. So the movie is Halloween and Christmas combined. Are you more of a Halloween girly or a Christmas girly?
Well, growing up in Australia, obviously Halloween is not as much of a big deal. I feel like it's probably getting a bit bigger now, but it's still not as much of a thing than it is in America. And also my mom was kind of like not real. I wouldn't say anti-Halloween, but like she's super Catholic. So anything
Okay.
that's like gothic in nature or witches or demons or whatever, she gets all like weird about. So, you know, there were certain movies that I had never seen or like parts of it that I kind of wasn't really like aware of. And it just so happened that The Grinch is like my favorite movie of all time ever. And obviously that's a Christmas movie. So I would say I definitely started off like a much bigger Christmas girly and still am a huge Christmas girly. But I would say over the last couple of years, Halloween has kind of stolen my heart. And I would say they're probably sitting pretty even at the moment.
And then would you say you most closely resemble Jack Skellington or Sally from the movie?
I'd say Jack. Yeah, I feel more connected to Jack, I would say.
Okay. And in that
Yes.
case, is Mance Warner your Sally?
No, I think Mance is like, I don't know who Mance would be. I think Mance is just, he would be like some side character, and not in a sense of like he's not important, but he would just like rock up and be like one of the giant vampires or something. Like he's just go with the flow kind of guy. You know what I mean?
In that case, who would round out the rest of the cast? Like, who would be Doc Finkelstein, the mayor of Halloween Town?
I would say the mayor of Halloween Town would be Jimmy Lloyd. Um, Dr. Finkelstein. I'm getting like, this is like, this isn't even a wrestling person. I mean, they are a wrestling person, but they're not a wrestler. There's one of the guys who works for the Major Bendies. His name is Kinnick. He's like the guy who does all the merch stuff. Kinnick gives me Dr. Finkelstein vibes. Who would be Sally? Maybe Alley Cat would be Sally. Oogie Boogie. We need like a big. I think Mance is Oogie Boogie. I think Mance is Oogie Boogie. And then who's Zero? I mean, I think all of the cats morph together and become Zero.
Yep.
I think that's what happens.
One of the other questions is, are you like a big Tim Burton fan in general, or is this like the main one that you watch? Because I know you went and saw Beetlejuice recently.
Yeah, I love Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice is great. I'm not a huge Tim Burton fan in a sense of I literally haven't seen many of his other movies. And again, it's just because it's tough for me to try to sit and watch. We watched The Corpse Bride a couple weeks ago. I didn't think it was anywhere near as good as Nightmare, but again, it's like I think I started with like a really high level movie with that. So I think trying to compare any of his other movies to that isn't going to cut the mustard. But like I haven't seen Edward Scissorhands, and I haven't seen a lot of his other like bigger movies that everyone's like, how the fuck have you not seen this? And I'm like, because I just don't watch movies. But I've liked what I've seen. But as I said, I think Nightmare is probably going to be my favorite of them all.
Yeah, I think it's probably the most in tune with like the things that you enjoy, so it fits in nicely.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
Yeah, so I won't ask you to rank your top 5 Tim Burton movies because there
I,
might
I
be
don't think I've
two.
seen five. No, I don't think I've seen five.
And have you incorporated inspiration from any other forms of entertainment throughout the years?
Yeah, I would say I get a lot of inspiration from music, certain artists and ways that they present themselves. Same with stand up comedy. I get a lot of inspo from stand up comedy, like a lot of my favorite comedians, more in the sense of like marketing and how they brand themselves, and also how they connect with their fan bases. And I think a lot of it is them being themselves and people feeling like that they can kind of get to know them. And comedians generally, it's a bit less of just a highlight reel. They let you see the highs and the lows, and you get a bit more of like a raw and uncut insight into their life, or so it feels anyway. And I think that's why people feel connected to them. So I've kind of tried to create that with my fan base, and be honest and talk about the good and the bad, and show people an insight into what my day-to-day life is. And I've always had like a really strong connection with my fans, and I think that pays off really well. Like the more you put into it, the more you get out, right? So I think I get that from comedy. And yeah, as I said, with music, just like certain, like a lot of my favorite rappers have a very unique look, or a very distinct look. Like, Old Dirty Bastard, you could draw a photo of him. You know what Snoop Dogg looks like, you could dress up as him for Halloween. Like, everyone has their own kind of gimmick in a way of, what their hair is going to look like, what color clothing they're going to wear. They have a particular tattoo, or they have their grills, or they have this, or that. There's defining features about all of these people. It's in wrestling, we say it's like the airport test. If you walk through the airport, you're going to stand out and people are going to go, I don't know who that is, but I know that's someone. That's kind of what I tried to create for myself. And I think I've done a pretty good job, because I don't really know anyone else that looks like me. So that's kind of what I've taken that from like a lot of my favorite musicians. And then like, having stage presence and creating this feeling of like a larger than life character, like not just an average person. But as I said, I hate the word aura. I feel like these days we've just destroyed the word aura. but before it was lame, having some sort of aura or presence, I think that is, prevalent in a lot of like my favorite artists. So I've tried to kind of emulate that as well.
Yeah, ever since leaving NXT, I think you really did define the look and be like, okay, that's Steph De Lander. That's not Persia Pirotta anymore.
Yeah, I think having the reins taken off and having to find out who I was for myself and losing the fear of, like, I feel like when I was in NXT and I was Persia, I was just waiting to be told what they wanted from me. Right? I didn't realize that, like, hey, the trick is you have to find it. Like, no one's going to give this shit to you. You have to find who you are, present it, and then they'll go, oh yeah, that's good. We can put that on TV and we can make money from it. So I think I spent too long waiting for my character or my gimmick or whatever to be given to me. And then once I got released, I was like, all right, I need to figure this out for myself, and I need to do it and not be scared of not being what someone might want me to be, right? Like, I never ever got any tattoos because I was scared that WWE wouldn't want me if I had tattoos, if they had this idea that they wanted me to be a ballerina, and then all of a sudden I've got this big tattoo and I couldn't do that. Or, that's a fear that like a lot of wrestlers have. Not having, I didn't cut the bangs, I didn't shave the slits in my eyebrows. I was, I had all these things that I had wanted to do for a long time, but I was scared of doing because I thought, like, well, what if this isn't what they want me to be? So it kind of took getting fired and just going like, fuck it. And also I had a conversation with Hartley Jackson, who's in Japan, obviously big Australian wrestler and coach. He was a coach at the PC for a while. And I remember I had a conversation with him, and it was before I got my face tattoo. And I was talking to him and I was like, I really want to get a sleeve tattoo, but like, I'm scared about, like, if it might affect me in wrestling and if that's not what WWE wants from me. And he basically was like, Steph, you doing that and becoming more yourself will probably make you even more likely to go back and be successful. Like, you need to find yourself, be yourself, and then it'll happen for you. Like, you need to go on the journey and find who you are. And I was like, fuck, that makes sense. And then I think like the ultimate culmination was getting like my name tattooed on my face, because it was just the ultimate like, well, what's even more ridiculous than getting like a whole sleeve, like a face tattoo? Not many people do that. I also don't really have many other big tattoos, so it's just so ridiculous that it's like that was the first thing that I went for. And then when I decided I wanted to get a face tat, I was like, well, what do I want to get? And I was like, well, I'm never going to hate my name. And also, if I get that, then that's the ultimate kind of like, Persia is done. That chapter is over. My name is Steph De Lander. My name's SDL. This is who I am now. It was kind of me taking the power back of choosing like, this is who I am. So yeah, that was kind of the journey to finding myself, I would say.
And then that all sort of came to fruition when Matt Cardona saw you on that World Series Wrestling tour and was like, oh, that's a person I need.
Yeah, the timing of it just kind of all lined up perfectly. And yeah, it felt like it was great timing for everything, and it felt meant to be.
So then, as we close out the episode, what is the best piece of advice you've been given regarding searching for character inspiration, or even just like that branding element as well? Like we've mentioned, that's being a lot more important perhaps than taking inspiration from a movie or a song or something for a character.
I mean, I don't know the advice that I've been given, but the advice that I would give to someone would be like, you just have to try stuff. You have to do it. You have to take the leap. You have to try stuff and see what sticks. Not everything that you do is going to be a success. Sometimes you're going to do stuff and you're going to fail and it's going to flop, and you can't be scared of that, because that's where you grow and that's where you learn. But like, you have to take the first step. You have to put yourself out there. You can't be scared of what people are going to think of you. You can't be embarrassed. You can't be ashamed. Like, you just have to, even if you have all those feelings, find a way to put it aside and start creating content and start trying new stuff and put yourself out there, because that's how you find yourself.
Yeah, you never know what's going to stick. Like it might seem like the most ridiculous thing, and then all of a sudden that's what catches on and you're off to the races with something that you never even expected.
Exactly. So many of the most famous wrestlers in the world have gone through various gimmicks, various names, the stupidest shit that people have thought they're never going to be able to come back from. And then sometimes that one thing is the thing that skyrockets them to the top, So you've just got to keep trying stuff.
I think like the biggest example would be Stone Cold and the 316. Like it was just a off the cuff thing that he threw out there, and then that's basically the Stone Cold character forever.
Yeah, it could literally be something as simple as that, an off the cuff line in a promo on a random episode of Raw or whatever it was, and then that's like his whole life and career change. So yeah, I think that's the perfect example as well. You just gotta try stuff.
So then, looking ahead, what's in store for you once the neck's all good to go?
Well, I don't know, to be honest. I probably won't be back in the ring until like March to April. So I maybe even later. So I have a lot of time to kind of like cook up what I want to do. I'm not trying to make any like quick moves. I want to be smart about it. I want everything that I do to be intentional. I don't want to come back and just do some random indie and be like, "Hey, I'm back." Like whatever I do, it's going to be big. Everything I do is big. It's a great time for some sort of metamorphosis, some sort of shift. What that is, I don't know yet, and I'm also not going to tell anyone yet. But yeah, that's a very vague answer, but that's the reality of it. Is I got a few months of recovery and chilling out and brainstorming before I get to start really thinking about the return. So I'm just going to enjoy my chill out time a bit, and then once it's a bit closer, then I'm going to start really hitting the drawing board and seeing what I come up with.
Brilliant. Yeah, and it'll be watch out world when Steph comes back, because there'll be no niggling little hurts and pains here and there. It's going to be full steam ahead.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to bring a new version of myself. It'll be good.
Alrighty, so finally, where is the best place for people to support you and track the wrestling journey moving forward?
At Steph De Lander on Instagram, Twitter, and on TikTok. On YouTube, I have a podcast called That's Cooked every week. That's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere. Obviously, all my merch links and all that good stuff is in my bios. So there's plenty of places to support me and to find me.
Alrighty, thank you everyone for listening to the commentary booth live via satellite. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on podcast services and on YouTube. You can follow me on social media at JamyUps Media and at Pario Magazine. Thank you, Steph, for taking the time to chat with me, and rest up that neck and come back nice and strong.
Thank you so much.